Juggalos in recovery.
Juggalos in recovery, man.
Well, now that we are done serenading Enzo, I'm going to go ahead and start in the meeting for the Lotus song. I don't. Did everybody get to hear that earlier? I'm going to assume so. But it was Dark Lotus. My head is haunted off of the Mud, Water, Air, Blood, whatever. Uh, the whole concept for this one was the fear of relapse. So, in the journey of sobriety, the fear of relapse is a permanent shadow that looms over many ninjas. The song's lyrics paint a vivid and harrowing picture of this struggle, capturing the internal torment and psychological battles faced by those striving to maintain their own sobriety. The fear of relapse is not merely a fear of succumbing to the old habits, but a fear deeply intertwined with one's psyche, creating this relentless battle within the mind. So, the first part of this is going to be the haunted mind. The metaphor in the song is of a haunted house. So, it's a powerful illustration of this internal conflict faced by ninjas in sobriety. While a haunted house can be abandoned and ghost stories can be dismissed, a haunted mind offers no such escape. The lyrics describe a closet inside of my head where past traumas and temptations reside, relentlessly resurfacing despite efforts to lock them away. This encapsulates like the intrusive nature of addiction and this ever-present fear that those old thoughts, these old memories inside your head of what it was like to be in active addiction could lead to a relapse. So, in this metaphorical haunted house, the ghosts represent this lingering effects of addiction, of past behaviors, regrets, and the ever tempting pool of substances that once provided a temporary escape. These ghosts are not merely passive remnants of the past, they are active, insidious forces that can empower rational thought and willpower. The haunted mind is this battleground where past and present collide, often leaving ninjas feeling outnumbered and outmatched. So while the song portrays the struggle through experience of being tormented by these memories, feeling as though they are driven by unseen forces that are driving and I'm the passenger, this sense of being driven by forces beyond one's control highlights the feeling of hopelessness and vulnerability that many in recovery face. It's as if their autonomy is hijacked by their addiction, which lies dormant, waiting for a moment of weakness to seize control. This loss of control is a common theme in the fear of relapse. Ninja feel that despite their best efforts and strongest resolutions, their past addictions have an insidious power over them, ready to take over at any moment. This powerlessness can be exacerbated by triggers, emotions, or even random thoughts can ignite cravings and bring back addictive memories and flooding your senses with all of this bullshit from this past that you feel like you should have left behind by now. The haunted mind is not this static entity. It evolves with time and experience. Each new stressor or emotional upheaval can add another ghost to the mix, making the internal landscape even more treacherous. The struggle to maintain sobriety becomes not just a fight against a singular addiction, but a multifaceted battle against a host of psychological and emotional specters. The song's depiction of this haunted mind also underscores the isolation that often accompanies the fear of relapse. This internal conflict and the constant battle against it. Unseen forces can make ninjas feel profoundly alone, as if no one can truly understand the depth of their struggle. The concept of isolation can intensify the fear, making the haunted mind not just a place of torment, but also one of profound loneliness. Does anybody have any issues with this description that I'm using for the haunted mind? Any questions? All right, we're going to move on to the
Oh
next
no,
section.
it's a perfect description.
I
Perfect.
thought so.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
love it.
Dope.
Yeah, that
So
was
the
a
next.
beautiful, beautiful, eloquent breakdown, homie. That was a beautiful breakdown.
All right, well, this has got a good couple of parts. We're only about a quarter of the way through this. So the next section is psychological and emotional turmoil. So the song further delves into the psychological torment with vivid imagery of fear and self destruction. The fear manifests physically with the pupils dilate and face wild with hate, illustrating this intense anxiety and emotional upheaval that accompany the fear of relapse. These physical symptoms are emblematic of the body's response to overwhelming stress and anxiety, akin to fight or flight. They signify a state of heightened alteredness, panic, where ninjas feel cornered by their own thoughts and memories. So the protagonists in the song experience hallucinations and violent tendencies, such as banging their head off the floor and breaking their nose, symbolizing the self-destructive behaviors that often accompanies a relapse. These actions and desperate attempts to externalize the internal pain and turmoil, the physical self harm, kind of serves as a distraction from psychological pain, a way to momentarily escape the relentless mental problems with a physical issue. This behavior underscores the severity of that internal struggle, highlighting the lengths to which addicts might go to cope with their fear of a relapse. The song also touches on the inadequacy of external help. The exorcist quitting the case and the futile attempts with holy water and blessed rice cakes symbolizes the failure of traditional methods to exorcise this internal demon of addiction. This reinforces the notion that the battle against relapse and addiction as a whole is deeply personal and often beyond the reach of conventional interventions. Traditional support systems and therapeutic methods also can fail and fall short because they do not fully address the unique and deeply embedded nature of what addiction is as far as the psychological side goes. The exorcist failures represents this frustration and hopelessness that can accompany seeking help from external sources. It suggests that no matter how well intentioned these external interventions might be, they may not be enough to penetrate the deeply personal and internalized battle that we face. The symbolic use
Prepárate
of the holy
para
ghost.
frío, porque los viernes de la jungla se irán a todo jefe, todo jefe.
All right.
Con las mejores cosas de la zona.
Time to boot that area.
Yep. Do we have enough people to start removing randoms?
I'll switch over to my computer and watch out for that.
Yeah,
That's
looks like
just
we're gonna
proof
get
that your song
raided.
meeting is
I got it.
popping off.
All right.
That's how hot your song meeting is, Chris.
Oh,
Trying to silence the
apparently.
truth.
Uh, gotta love it though. At least it's not just flapping dicks this time. So
Well, I have it set up.
Los viernes de la
Oh,
jungla.
there we
Si
go
gana
again.
todo gente. Todo gente. Todo gente.
I have it set up so they can't share their screen.
okay, cool.
Instead, it's flapping gums.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun though. But yeah, we did get raided, so it's fine. It happens. So, in the song, the protagonist's journey also highlights the profound isolation felt during struggles. Despite seeking help, the inability of others to truly understand or alleviate their pain exacerbates feelings of loneliness and desperation. The isolation is a significant aspect in the psychological side of relapse and addiction as a whole, as it reinforces the notion that the battle against relapsing or doing the drugs or the drinking is fraught primarily with in the confines of your own head, often without adequate external support. Moreover, the hallucinations and violent tendencies can be seen as manifestations in the internal conflict between the desires to remain sober and the seductive pull of relapse. The mind becomes a battlefield where rational thought and irrational fears clash, leading to behaviors that are both self destructive and self preservative. This duality reflects the complex nature of addiction, where the ninja is constantly torn between opposing forces within their own. Does anybody want to ask any questions about that or take a moment to breathe after being rated again? Okay, I'm going to read
No,
this
you're
whole thing.
perfect. Keep going.
Hold on, I got something. Don't
Okay,
fucking
let's
rush
hear it.
me. Um, so this is something I personally have never relapsed, but even at over 10 years sober now, there are still moments in time when this exact thing you're describing happens to me. Perfect example of this. We all know most of us know I was deployed in Iraq this winter. It was the most dangerous deployment I've ever been on.
Mhm.
I had a 16 or 17-hour flight from where was it? Qatar to Dallas, nonstop, and they were serving alcohol. And there was quite a few times during that 16 hours where I was like, fuck this shit. I just survived the most dangerous deployment I've ever been on. I need a fucking chill pill. I need to sleep. I need to relax. I need to calm down. I'm safe now. And it was very, very tempting to just go and get a drink and deal with the consequences afterwards. But I know because of all the work I've put in, I know it wasn't going to be worth it in the long run. But those thoughts still pop in my head all the time. Not as frequent as they were when I first got sober, but I feel like it's not just not just a beginning of sobriety thing. It's just more prevalent in beginning of sobriety because it's so new. The change that you're going through, but as long as you have the tools and the awareness of what's going on, I feel like you can conquer anything that your evil mind or haunted mind throws at you.
Now, while I don't disagree with you, I like to kind of relate this back to the idea of intrusive thoughts. Everybody gets intrusive thoughts, not necessarily about addiction, but like even people on the other side of sobriety, people that don't have an addiction, they'll get intrusive thoughts about doing a thing. And it's very hard to ignore a lot of intrusive thoughts when you're having them on a constant. And when you're in the early throes of addiction recovery, I feel like the idea of having something that's so normal as an intrusive thought, even though you're consciously trying to not, is far more common. And I feel like it's also triggered as an intrusive thought during stressful situations because it's a coping skill that we used at one point in our lives that worked really well for us. And even though we may not use that coping mechanism now in stressful situations, that's probably one of the things that our brain will throw at us because it worked for us at one point. Skylar?
Agreed on the intrusive thoughts happen even when you're sober. I admit that's why I probably like back before I managed to knock it because of university. I was using for a while because I used to get drunk like 5 days a week just because it was, I don't know, that's what made like, you don't have to recognize that your inner voice is kind of fucked when you're messed up. Like I know my inner voice will always tell me you're worthless, you suck, you can't do it, etc. And so those intrusive thoughts happen when sober, and it's easy to turn them off when you're messed up. And that shit does suck because I know none of that is true, but I guess it's probably a coping mechanism I used at some point and just got stuck using. And that doesn't make me feel better. That just causes more stress. And then I end up having to take twice the effort dealing with that to overcome what's in front of me. But yeah, man, that it really sucks. And I know you and Frank have like told me that's where self affirmations come in, learning to change your inner voice so it's more nurturing rather than self defeating. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, intrusive thoughts fucking suck. They like tell you the worst things about yourself that may not be true. And yeah, you're right. They often end up coming from stressful situations, and then you just keep using them because that's what worked before, and it's instinct.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Nate, you got your hand up?
I do. I was just gonna say, Sky, welcome. I am our monster. I'm super happy that you joined, and you totally missed the entire 2 hours of self-talk that we talked about earlier.
Oh my god, yeah, dude, I
yeah,
woke up at 4 p.m.
dude, we totally like went into deep detail. If you want me to send you some shit on it, I did a whole thing. I'll shoot it over
Could
to
you?
you. But yeah,
Because
that's
yeah, I'm just
self-doubt.
getting my shit together. I
Yeah, you're good,
finished
man.
university last week, getting over being sick, and just now getting back into a routine schedule. Because I didn't pass out till like 5 a.m. last night.
Yep, I'll send you some stuff, but that self-talk, doubt and self-talk that we talked about earlier, I mean, 100% up your alley, man, and I'll shoot it over to you for sure.
You want to know the irony? I was like bitching all during the month of April about how I'm gonna fuck up, I'm such a failure, etc. I actually kicked that shit out of the park. I got the highest grades in my advanced bio class. Like I think I got like a 98, which is kind of rare, and then all A's and 1B. And considering I had my tire stabbed, got sick like 3 times, chipped my tooth, and dude, the chipping tooth thing sucked. I had to get like a needle stuck in my gums and like look in the mirror. I'll use like a sander on my tooth. I was fucking gripping the seat, man. That was pretty gruesome. But I mean, all that, and I still kicked ass, and I can't even congratulate myself. Instead, it's just what I don't have.
Well, congratulations.
Gotta work on my inner voice.
Not one person here ever doubted you, man. Good job, though. Fuck yeah.
Appreciate that, guys. No, and thank you for being awesome support.
All
You're
the
the wind
time,
beneath my wings, as corny as that is to say.
Well, we love having you here, man. That's all I got.
Well, like this is the biggest thing, is we're always capable of way more than we're ever going to give ourselves credit for. And the biggest thing is most of us will never attempt the thing that we're going to be best at because we're afraid we're going to suck at it at first. So Always give everything that you can, as much effort as you can, to see if you're going to be able to do it. Because you don't know until you know. But with that, I'm going to get back into the actual meeting unless anybody else has some shit to say.
No, I need you to finish blessing my fists before I go into this hardcore show. So keep it going, Mr. Sheehan. All hands on deck.
Yeah. All right. So the next section is the constant battle. So there's this recurring line in the hook, living in my mind, I'm forever haunted. The relentless nature of this struggle, the fear of a relapse is a constant companion, an ever present threat that never truly goes away for any of us. It's always something that is possible, and that's something so many of us are terrified of. This persistent state of vigilance can also be mentally and emotionally exhausting. Juggalos that are in recovery must constantly monitor their thoughts and their actions and be kind of on guard against this possibility of slipping back into old habits.
Did they take the van?
Molly.
All right. But this possibility of slipping back into old habits can lead to this state of perpetual anxiety and fear that's kind of depicted by the line torture is a constant in the refrain of the chorus. The relentless nature of this internal battle can kind of wear us down. Even the most resilient ninjas making the journey toward sustained sobriety can struggle with this. With the presence of multiple ghosts or entities in the mind represents this the different facets of addiction and mental health issues that plague the average addict. These ghosts symbolize the various aspects of the past that they must confront and overcome. The saint and the insane ghosts highlight the dual nature of the struggle, the desire to stay sober, and the simultaneous pull towards not being sober, having some fun, getting back into those old habits and not having that care. These are all difficult to kind of make sense. Each ghost can be seen as different triggers or even memories associated with addiction. For example, one ghost might symbolize past trauma, another might represent moments of weakness, and yet another could be the embodiment of self doubt and despair. Together, these entities create this complex and multifaceted struggle within the mind, where each day is a fight to keep these ghosts at bay. This constant internal battle can require. Who's trying to join now? Okay. Nobody that matters. So, like, with this battle, it emphasizes the isolation that also accompanies it. The feeling of being forever haunted suggests this sense of loneliness as if no one can truly understand the complexity of this struggle. The isolation can exacerbate relapse ideas, blah, blah, blah. The concept of being driven by these ghosts, where the ninja feels like a passenger rather than a driver of their own mind, kind of highlights the loss of control in addiction. This lack of control is a significant source of fear as it undermines our confidence and our ability to actually have concurrent thought, especially when we're in this early recovery area. The constant need to exert control over our own internal demons can lead to real big fatigue or break in our own mental states. And that can steer us towards something that may be even more difficult to come back from. So the ghosts in the mind can be seen as part of this larger narrative of addiction and recovery where we must come to terms with the part and find a way to move forward. This process often involves confronting painful memories, acknowledging the mistakes, forgiving ourselves, which are all critical components in recovery. That sounds like a lot of 12-step shit that I don't know, but I think those are 12-step things, right, Frank?
Sorry, I tuned out. I zoned out. I wasn't paying attention.
Okay. So I wrote down in here that the process of getting rid of some of the ghosts are confronting painful memories, acknowledging mistakes, and forgiving oneself.
Oh yeah, 100%. 12 steps.
Yeah, I kind of remembered them. Yeah, but all of that shit can be really emotionally exhausting. Forever contributing to this idea of this internal struggle. So, does anybody have any questions about that section before I move on to the next one? All right. So, this next one is seeking understanding and empathy. And I feel like this is a key component in long-term recovery, especially when it comes to relapse, because all of us fuck up. The severity of our fuck ups vary, but we'll see. So the song's narrative seeks to evoke empathy and understanding from us in the plea to perceive the dilemma, where it highlights this often misunderstood nature of what addiction can be and the fear that comes with relapse. It's a call for recognizing that sobriety is not just about abstaining from substances, but actually going forward within your own head and changing the way that you actually think about doing things. So, by vividly illustrating these internal struggles and psychological issues that can be faced by the average juggalo in recovery, the song aims to bridge the gap between those who have experienced addiction and those who haven't. So, with this meeting, I'm trying to make this make sense to somebody that's never had an addiction before, has never had to go through the recovery process. And understanding the complexities of addiction requires moving beyond the simplistic view that it is merely a matter of willpower. The song emphasizes that addiction embeds itself deeply within the psyche, affecting not only the behavior, but also thoughts and emotions, and really the mental health of that person. So in the song, My Closet Happens to Be Inside My Head speaks to the concept of internalization, suggesting that struggles associated by addiction are really in the brain and not easily seen or understood by others. This internal battle can be invisible to the outsider, making it difficult for them to fully grasp the extent of the challenges faced by those of us that are in recovery. So, the end of the song with the protagonist feeling like they are decaying, laying on the Grim Reaper's shoulder, captures kind of the despair and hopelessness that can accompany addiction. This image is a stark reminder of the high stakes involved in the journey of sobriety and the profound psychological toll it can take on us. The feeling of decay symbolizes the erosion of hope and vitality, a state where the average person feels like they are constantly teetering on the brink of failure or collapse. when they're going through that process of trying to maintain sobriety, at least initially. You know, the vivid portrayal serves as this appeal for empathy. It asks us to recognize the immense courage and resilience required to confront these issues on a daily basis. Empathy involves not just feeling sympathy for somebody's plight, but also striving to understand their experience from their own perspective. So, by conveying the immense emotional and psychological landscape, it may help people to empathize with the addict more. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to where we're actually going to talk about some shit. So, as we reflect on the themes that we talked about in the song, it's important to recognize that many of us may have faced similar struggles in our own journeys, but the haunting images and relentless battles described may resonate deeply with others more so than yourself. So let's take this time and open the floor up for you guys to talk about it. Have you ever had any experience of the fear that comes along with the idea of relapses or the fear that comes with going into sobriety? Do you have this concept of ghosts that linger in your mind? And what strategies have you found kind of effective for battling said ghosts in your brain? You guys gonna say some shit?
Yeah, we sort of touched on it earlier, but looking at like the people in your past, and like I don't know, for me in my mind, this is the ghosts in my past, or the voices from my dad and my, the people that doubted me and stuff like that, and those still linger. We talked about it earlier. It's something that, like, whenever you beat yourself up in your head, you're letting that person win, and it's technically that person's voice that you're letting, that you're letting in and do those things. Um, and I think the second part of what you're asking, or maybe even the first part, was like the hesitation to go into recovery. I held on to that shit. I held on to my past. I didn't want to let it go, in a sense. I mean, I did, but I felt like it defined me. And, so my hesitation to go into recovery, the first time I went out, I was like, well, this isn't, this is just, you know, I don't want to deal with all this shit. Like, fuck it. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I don't have a problem. And, so there was a lot of hesitation going into it, and I didn't want to give up all that stuff I was doing. It made me feel comfortable. It seemed at the time to calm my nerves and all that shit that, we know now that it really doesn't do any of that. It all helps until it doesn't. Um, it helped me sleep at first. It would help me calm down at first. And, after a while, it didn't do that anymore, and it just made things worse. That's what I got on it.
Thanks, Nate. So this song I felt like was a great representation in the eyes of sobriety. And I thought it worked really well for the handful of people that I've talked to about relapse. And just about everybody that I've been able to talk to about what it was like for them, either approaching the idea of relapse or when they did relapse and were starting to recover again, was this fear that somehow they didn't have the control for it. They didn't have this willpower to stop themselves from doing the thing that their mind kept telling them that they wanted to do, even though they would outwardly say that they didn't want to do it. And I tried to approach this in a way that reflected well. Does anybody have any experience with that or can share on that?
Experience with the lack of control, yes. what I've learned in sobriety is the ironic thing is you have to accept that you don't have control. Because once you accept that you don't have control, you can actually start solving the problem and finding another solution. You can only white knuckle for so long before you end up hurting yourself or others around you.
Yeah, Jimmy, let's hear what you gotta say.
So I was listening, and first of all, I just want to say thank you for that beautiful, eloquent breakdown of that song. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of music. You perceive it one way, and somebody perceives it another, and it's in a whole nother light that you would never perceive. But my experience is like with fear. Like I was always afraid of something, you know what I mean? And I would mask it. I was always a good like mask wearer, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was always Halloween time in a different way, always like acting like the tough guy. It was talked at one meeting, I think a week ago, or just, but situations would happen. Like I would forcibly be put in situations, whether it be like my current higher power at the time, which would be like the court system, making me go to rehab or making me go to jail or prison and stuff like that. And I think for me personally, like in order to really want to do something different, at least be willing to do something different, I had to like be forcibly like made to sit down and reflect while chaos was going on. Like one of the biggest turning points for me in my life was when I went to prison. You know what I mean? And obviously I can't walk out of the door and leave from that place. You know what I mean? But while the chaos was going on around me, I had time to reflect on like my whole life and my choices and just like everything that I did, whether it be selfish or good intentions or whatever the hell, whatever justifications I made up in my mind, all led me to this point. You know what I mean? So obviously something wasn't working. You know what I mean? And I tell people all the time, like, I got nothing figured out. All I have in this life is my knowledge and my experience on what worked and what didn't work. You know what I mean? So like being trapped, so to speak, in my mind, it's like for me, like I just had, I don't know, like finding that motivation to just do something different, man. Like I don't want to be trapped anymore. I don't want to like, because I believe that pain is inevitable in life, right? But suffering is voluntary. You know what I mean? Like I'll deal with life as life comes, but I'm choosing to stay stuck in a problem. I'm choosing to beat my head against the wall and rock back and forth in a rocking chair, not going anywhere. But I can get up from the rocking chair, find a solution, and do something better. You know what I mean? Or I could just keep going insane, bite my arm off, and just scream at the moon until like my vocal cords explode. My perception today is a lot different than what it was 5 years ago. But I also believe that 5 years from now, my perception will be a lot better than what it is today. Because my thing is as an individual, I'm constantly trying to upgrade who I am. You know what I mean? I'm always trying to be at least a little bit better than I was yesterday. You know what I mean? And using my past experiences and all of the crap that, maybe 5 years ago I would have stayed stuck on stupid and living in regret. But today I use it as motivation to do something better and to even, be an example of change in a sense. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, But yeah, that's all I wanted to share. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Jimmy. I know, like that's the biggest thing is for me, all of sobriety was just a reflection on what my motivations truly were. And that's always really difficult to make sense of outside of things. Until you're faced with your own reflections, how do you really know how things look to others? I had to go back and really look at where my motivations lie. What was it that was making me go to the lengths that I was going to do the things I was doing? And everybody's got their own life to live. They've got their own things that they've got to reflect on. And not every avenue is walkable for every person. So whatever works for you works for you. Anybody else got more shit to say about the meeting? All right. Well, that was all I really had.
I'll go real quick. I just want to say I haven't seen you, Jimmy, on any meetings, man, but that share was fucking fire, and I hope to see you on more, brother. That's good shit. Like, you came out of nowhere with the heater, so I appreciate you.
You're welcome, homie. You're welcome. It's just it's all from the heart. You know what I mean? Like,
Hell yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm really happy that you got something out of it, and I'm really happy that I was able to put it into words instead of jumbling over my words. But like, that's all I have really today is just what I've been through and my experience of it. You know what I mean? And like, because like for me personally, it's just like, I've been pretty much dealing with substance abuse and alcoholism since I've been down with the clown. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously there's been like life situations in life, but like my coping mechanisms for things was substances, because obviously that's the best way to adjust the things and to numb it or to intensify or whatever. But the party was over well before it began, and that shit was killing me. But like, I found this place, and like the homie Chris is saying, I like Chris, by the way, I makes me want to go back to every single wicked shit song that I love and like listen to, and just like break down some shit now. You know what I mean? Like, really write some shit and break it down. Like, one song in particular that pertains to me is Tearjerker by Jamie. You know what I'm saying? Like, that song, like, you know what I mean? That's just like, that's me. You know what I mean? Like, but it goes back to that idea too, like what we were talking about earlier, as far as like, we find new interests, or like our old interests that we love to do, we can expand upon them. So it's like, we love this music, obviously it's all what brings us together, the unification and everything that we love about it, but now we take what we've already known for so long and then we grow upon it. Like, Chris, you just gave me, like I said, you gave me a brilliant idea, like songs that I already love. I'm gonna go in and like write down some crazy personal metaphors to what it really means to me. You know what I mean? And by the time I'm done, the whole day's down and I got another positive day behind me,
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. I run the song meeting every Friday. So if that's what really gets you going, come by
Well, you can
Friday
count
nights.
me in being there. You can count me to be there. I didn't know it was every Friday, but I just started coming on the scene a couple weeks ago. I'll be there though, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, man. We got tons of shit to talk about then. Yeah. Love hearing shit from the new peoples. Love seeing fresh faces.
Are you fresher than her? I don't think so.